Hi, so in this video what I'm going to go through are the way I approach Mythic Plus dungeons. Now I get asked for this quite a bit in messages, and I have done a couple of videos on particularly Retribution Paladin in Mythic Plus dungeons at some points in Legion. It sort of changes with each patch, so I haven't really done one in 7.1.5 because I was trying to work out how to do it well. The problem is that every week you get 2 affixes, or 3 affixes really for the higher level ones, that are going to change the way you approach these dungeons. So what I thought is probably the easiest thing to do is just to go through a few dungeons I've done that week and explain what I was doing at certain key moments in it, and then the next week do another one, and so on. So I'm actually just going to make this a weekly series. So I'm not doing lots and lots of Mythic Plus dungeons at the moment. I don't think there's ever been a point where I have, personally. You'll not see 1,000 Mythic Plus dungeons my name. But at the moment, we're certainly in that position where we've got our artifact at 54. We need to do them to get a plus 15 so we can get the maximum level item from our weekly cache. So we're tending to be just doing like a few dungeons a week. So I've got 3 so far this week, and I'm just going to go through, as I say, the key points of those, which is a plus 12 Archway, a plus 14 Court of Stars, and a plus 16 Neltharian's Lair. The main thing to note on here is I've died straight away. At this point, I have realised that I've not taken a talent that I normally take, which is like a cheat death, Divine Intervention. So really, in a deathly situation, what I need to be doing is using Bubble. I would generally advise when you've got 2 key... I'm just going to turn the volume right down. 2 really destructive affixes as we have this week. This week we've got Skittish and Teeming. Now, Skittish means that the tank is going to constantly lose aggro on them. Effectively, it's really weird the way the aggro works. But what it basically means is DPS are going to find themselves basically tanking these things. Some tanks will have an easier job of wrestling it back, but you know, you're going to find yourself getting clouted a few times. And so that's Skittish. And Teeming means that you get more of certain mobs as well. So you're going to find yourself with larger packs. So again, it's going to take you longer to kill them, and you're more likely to be hit, and more likely to be hit by more things. So defensives are quite crucial here. So I was getting my arse kicked quite roundly throughout this whole process, and it's because, as I say, I had the wrong talent. Nothing I can do about that at this point, by the way. I'm now in the dungeon, it's challenge mode. I can't change talents without leaving. I'm not going to do that. I just need to be more mindful. But the other thing is that I have a couple of defensive legendaries, which I also clean forgot about, and I used later on. Now, at this point, on these particular mobs, it's one where, again, you can see I've got aggro on something. There's some particular cache you want to try and keep hold of, and we're not going to do very well here, because, again, with the team, we've got more of these mobs. And what you want to be doing, ideally, is having a look at what I'm doing at this point, and we weren't successful at this at all, is having a look at the cast bars of the other things. Because what it might well be is that another mob that you're not targeting is doing a cast that really needs interrupted, and so you can quickly click on that bar and go in and interrupt it. What you can notice is at this point, again, just from a Retribution point of view, but this applies to anyone, I am likely to use my cooldowns largely on trash rather than bosses so much. You have to sort of play that one by ear. If, for example, like this week, we've got Fortified, and then obviously something like Skittish and Teeming as well, which make trash much worse, that's actually what you want to be using your cooldowns on. Oh dear, dead again. Huh. That's what you want to be using your cooldowns on. Don't save it for bosses. What's the point? The bosses, are relatively speaking, a lot easier. Now, if you had affixes that are quite easy for the trash, and then you had something like Tyrannical, which makes the bosses worse, then sure, you might want to be saving cooldowns for bosses. But yeah, Fortified is more about making trash worse, and Teeming and Skittish definitely make trash worse. So if the affixes make trash a nightmare, that's what your cooldowns are for. Now, I'm not necessarily using my cooldowns on cooldown here, and the reason for that is because sometimes you might have a real oh shit moment with trash. So sometimes I might leave it for a little bit, even when it's available, because I know that a trash pack that's coming up is like really, really bad. And just in case it goes wrong, I want to save it for that. But if it looks like, okay, we're past that point and it's not so bad, then I'll just use it again on trash. And if I don't have it up for the bosses, it doesn't really matter with affixes like this. This is a classic case of example of where you would use the cooldown trash. And this is right before a boss. We're not going to hold it on for this. You do this on Arcway. It almost doesn't matter what the affixes are. This is just a nasty trash pack that just happens to be before a boss. And the boss is much simpler, relatively speaking. And yeah, as I say, that wouldn't necessarily make a great deal of difference no matter what the affixes were in this case. So cooldowns to get the trash dealt with really, really quickly. On a fight like this as well, try and note the sort of position I've got. Sort of largely overhead, camera zoomed out where I can as well. Because it's more important for positioning purposes on this fight. It's one of those classic fights where your position wants to be based on where you can see the most things. You need to be able to see quite a lot of things or it can go badly wrong this fight. Rather than being in the position that's best for DPS. Like, it's one of those things where, as melee, of course, you want to be directly behind the boss. And ideally, you would even on this. But if in that position would mean that you don't get to see a lot of the environment around you, which you need to, then that's actually not going to be the best position. So favour a position where you can see things that you need to see rather than just what would be at the ideal DPS position. So what you can see in a situation like this, just before I die there, again, no divine intervention, is that I'm trying to stick on the outside of them and fire divine storms in, but you have to build up your holy power somehow. And what you can see me doing here while I'm dead is you can see what I'm starting to think about now. And what I've realised at this point is that I can't change my talent. I'm going to have to do without that cheat death, but not everyone has that. But one thing I can change is my legendaries. I'm going to remove my DPS legendaries and I'm going to put my defensive ones on. The defensive ones on, I have Pride as, which is one that anyone has access to. Whether you've got it is another matter. Just to offer a little bit of survivability there. But also the bracers, which are only available to Retribution Paladins, which is another cheat death effect on it. And then that's what I am going to switch to. Right, give me 5 seconds.
Yeah, I'm eating it.
I had about 6 of me there.
Yeah, me too. But like when you start kiting, like the ignite, and that part is super bad, and you have to go living bomb and kite.
Right, okay. So there we go. I've got defensive legendaries on now. You can see my durability at the moment at 57%. I'm starting to think at this point I'm not going to make it through. But from this point on, goes a lot more smoothly. And that's just and again, different spec. Obviously, Retribution, we've got access to these. Different specs have access to different things. But being a bit more defensively minded in these hideously dangerous situations, as a DPS especially, with these affixes, is definitely going to pay dividends. So you can see what I've done there is where, I've got eye for an eye, of course. If I get hit by something, I know the tank's very likely to turn it back, especially when there's only a couple like this. But, you've got the ability, it's on a 1 minute cooldown. So if you are going to be attacked by something that melees, you might as well just pop eye for an eye. You might even do a bit of damage back to it as well if it does stay on you and the tank can't get it off you straight away. Right, I want to watch what happens here. A gnome does a very, very bad thing. And then people wonder why I hate gnomes. There we go. Gnome has pulled. We've all got a ridiculous number of these debuffs up there, which have now worn off. Obviously, I've got defensive. The gnome, less so. The gnome's going to die at this point. There we go. Dead gnome. All is right with the world. But it was a bit of a moment of panic for everyone else as well. Moral of the story, gnomes are bad. Of course, it did mean I didn't have my bubble for that point where I could have kept DPS in the boss. So the gnome still screwed me even then, even though it was only them that died.
Because my aggro completely reset, and then you guys don't reset your aggro, so it's like, yeah.
So we can see there, I've used my cooldowns. That's an oh shit moment. It's not that I had a plan to use it against a spirit, but the interrupts are not going great. So pop the cooldown to get it killed as quickly as possible. And it's still available to use, obviously, on the next bit of trash as well. And that's what I mean. Generally speaking, it's like use... If there was no particularly troublesome trash in a dungeon, I would just essentially use it on cooldown. But if there are some ones where you think there could be a no shit moment here, just delay it a little bit. Not so much that you're just missing out, because you just want to get the trash kill quick. It's a timed thing as well anyway. I mean, mostly you would think you're going to get more benefit from using your cooldowns on trash than bosses anyway. There are some exceptions to that. But yeah, it means that you allow it for those oh shit moments. And use it without hesitation. If you come to a situation where you think, this situation is going to be made a lot better if we can kill this thing quickly, that's when you use it, even if it's just one trash mob. Also, bear in mind as a ret, with when you've got several holy power, you can actually treat yourself as a ranged a little bit. So when you're about to fire a divine storm off, sometimes you might want to step away from it and get a better shot, especially if there's going to be like ground effects or something you want to keep clear of. So it's a case of you going into melee to build up your holy power, but then against packs like this, you're moving away to fire your stuff off as well. So it's constantly like moving in and out of melee and ranged. And you can see at the end of the run, my durability 55%. So it went from 100% to 57% until the point at which I decided to equip defensive legendaries, and then no more problems after that. Because a lot of that trash in the early part was some of the nastiest trash, but there was still nasty trash after that. But anyway, let's look. We went next to Court of Stars 14. At this point, of course, I have not just equipped defensive legendaries, but I have also taken the Divine Intervention talent. So I don't have Cavalier anymore. So I'll be a bit slower, but then, you know, that wouldn't be too much. A Cavalier should be around for when I need it most of the time. Or Divine Steed, I should say. But yeah, I'll be rather more indestructible now. Here we're about to learn a lesson. This always surprises people. Like, noticing that we'll just pull the trash that's in the house. It'll be me that's pulled it. This is what happens when you're trying to AoE stuff, but you're trying to not pull stuff that's also within 20 yards. It ain't going to happen with Divine Storm. But yeah, I am now much more defensible. I'm not while I've got Divine Shield active, I'm not particularly worried. I mean, I'll still use health pots and do what I can to keep myself alive, but I'm not at all worried. Once Divine Shield has been triggered, is on cooldown, I might be a little bit more circumspect, but I do still have potentially the cheat death from the braces. But that's not a great one to fall back on because it still drops you down to 1 health, although it does give you an absorb shield as well. But I don't like to use it. I like it to be an insurance policy rather than something I make a lot of use of. Well, I feel a lot safer now with my cheat death mechanic, tactic, talent even, than my 2 defensive legendaries.
You've taken your precaution.
Yes. Damage be bollocks, I'll just live. This is another classic case of positioning so you can see things. There's you got low hanging branches from trees and stuff like that and cramped situation. So very difficult to see, and there are ground effects you need to see. You can see that I keep having to readjust my view there, even zooming in. That's always more crucial, that you sort of position to be able to see what you need to see, even if it's not the ideal DPS position. Because the ideal DPS position, if you can't actually see what you need to see, can kill you anyway. And you know what they say, dead DPS does no DPS.
What? Picking on the weakest guy.
You admit it then.
Thought you were the strongest.
I think he's the strongest, being a gnome.
Yeah, mentally maybe. And
And physically as well. It's like you travel the world of Azeroth with the small legs.
yeah, that's true. It's not a big package, but like...
Yeah. It's like what you do with it.
Thought Thete, being a teacher, would appreciate the expansive mind of the gnome.
They're not expansive. Why do you think they used to get intellect buffs? It's because they're so fucking stupid.
No,
There's not
their
enough
intellect
blood
is
in their
bigger.
body to support that big bulbous head of theirs, so they can't actually support a large brain.
But like... Gnomes are like a really fucking cool race. Like humans, especially made human, that's like...
Male human should be fucking forbidden.
Yeah, that's
Fucking-
like what my like 10 years old brother chooses. Like, I don't know.
It sounds like he's got common sense.
male humans and male night owls. Those two are played by downers.
And they
Like-
choose like names like Pala Human and stuff like that.
I think you found that Draenei.
She's going on the right side. Or never mind, she's going on the left side.
You sure?
Yeah. She tricked me.
Left as we look out or left as we look in?
She's still coming up this
Looking
side.
always. It's like you that always complain about it's the way you face the bus.
Well, in LFR today on Gul'dan, someone was telling people to put the flames of Sargeras in the corner in a circular room.
sounds smart.
It's got infinite corners.
Well, the real question is, Thete, did he get knocked off the platform?
No. Well, I don't know, actually. The first time was a wipe. That wasn't my fault, actually.
Actually, it's like normally your fault.
No, it was a gnome's fault that I died, actually.
It just
I was on my
exists in a-
hunter. I was on my hunter. I went on them to help them break out of their thing, whatever it's called. And then they moved without anyone else coming onto it, so it just killed me. They lived.
Why don't you do a turtle?
Because I
Like
thought
a
they
real-
might wait for someone else. Someone else was running over there. I thought they might have waited.
Ah, you always anticipate for the worst. That's how one stays alive.
Should have just left the gnome to it.
See ya.
Hang on. No, you can see me. I'm not going to die.
Alright, tough guy. Sorry.
So you can see the difference now between the start of Archway. Got me defensive legendaries, got me defensive talent. Virtually untouchable. Back to being almost indestructible again. Nice feeling. There's a dodgy situation about to occur here, as I recall. Now, this is a problem when you use judgment on something as it's about to die, because if the thing actually dies before or at the same time as you hit your judgment, then that's a thing that can happen. Which actually, they initially tried to blame on the Warlock pet, but it was actually my fault. That's my judgment. Not fireballs, it was a judgment. Like, I was using it on something, but it died before it went off, so it went off there instead.
Just, yeah.
My aim's fireball there.
I saw fireballs or something flying over there.
It was
like-
no, my judgment might look like a fireball.
It wouldn't surprise me if it happened, but like my imps don't have a pet bar, I can't do shit about it.
Yeah, that shit.
Yeah, that's me.
Is that you?
Yeah.
What the fuck? I mean, I saw it earlier today. I just figured it was not you. That's where you got Thete dying.
I actually could have used Lay on Hands on myself there. I just thought that trash was nearly dead. Just rest myself up. I know we lose a few seconds on the timer, but we just needed to complete this to get our plus 15. And I might need the Lay on Hands later on for someone else, potentially, not necessarily even me.
Tank them on top of the drummer. See, Thete, you can learn the tank tactics now.
What tactics?
Where to tank the mobs. I mean, I'm currently not tanking anything.
Well, like I
like-
say, this is not the week to be looking at tank placement of mobs, is it?
No, that's why I say to you, tank them on the run. If you would have won tank. And in the far distance, there's a gnome running away from me.
And how are we gonna avoid that, Skit?
So at this point, just turn the volume down. Tank has died. Quite high risk of that happening. Not a big deal. I'm likely to get aggro on it, which I do. As melee, remember you get you do more threat to mobs being in melee than you do as ranged, and I'm the only melee here, so quite likely I'm going to get to the bottom. So what I need to do is turn it round, and I've got various defensive things I can use. Eye for an eye there. Use me cooldowns, DPS cooldown, because of course this is an emergency situation. Just to kill it as quickly as possible, even though I know there's tough times ahead upstairs, and also that that was nearly dead anyway. But just to make sure that you don't end up with a wipe situation. So quite useful Rets in a skittish situation. It's not like the worst affix for us. It's a really annoying one, but we're, you know, especially if we go defensive, then it's not necessarily too bad. In fact, in some ways, you can argue in a situation like this, even as a DPS, you can argue you might as well go Protection Paladin, because you do quite a lot of AoE when it's like teaming, stuff like that, and obviously more defense as well. In this particular case, I'm using DPS cooldown, largely because any of these packs are quite unpleasant, but in this particular case, it's the last big pack before the boss, so there's not going to be any other oh shit moments. This particular boss, there is no point in using Crusade at the start, because he goes into his little mountain thing. If you did use this at the start, your Crusade would still be up, so you'd waste DPS. So never use Crusade right at the start of that boss anyway. So I know it's going to be up for roundabout when he comes out for the second stint. So that'll be a better use of it anyway. And always on packs like that, especially with bad affixes for trash, you want to be using DPS cooldowns if you can. It's possible I've lost it already.
I think I have still.
I'm pretty sure I still have it.
It's this one.
And it's the one on the edge.
Oh, good.
What the fuck was that? Does this boss do anything special? I mean, what was that? Opening the dungeon journal? That hit he just did on me.
Like that?
I don't know. No, when he came out of the fucking the totem thingy, he fucking hit me really fucking hard.
Skate.
Yes, that.
I was in the dungeon journal. I said so.
Oh,
What's up, fellas?
That.
Yeah, that. So I don't see a cast bar or anything. He just
Don't see a cast bar for that.
no. Does he do something?
Yes, cast.
What's it called?
Sunder.
Fuck.
Oh, I'm still in the dungeon journal, you know. Is it this one? Hey, it's not my fault you're aggro, fellas. What can I do about it?
don't.
Oh, bollocks.
Well, I could. But you're on your priest now. You could have faded.
No, I faded earlier.
Oh, well, why did you fade earlier?
Oh dear.
Start building them all up.
What the fuck?
I think it's this one. I really do.
What you say now that it's down to 50-50?
No, like while we were killing the other one, there was shit coming out of
You were
this
in the
stuff.
dungeon journal, you weren't even watching it.
Yes.
I was in the dungeon journal. I think it's this one, guys. I believe.
Worst way to show that boss ever. Absolute worst ever. And the last little thing to note here is if there's a particular portion of a boss fight where normally you'd have to move out, then that's what your bubble's for. So on this particular boss I could stay and I don't have to hide behind the rocks there, because I had my Divine Shield available to just power through that little bit there, increase DPS time on the boss a bit more. So again, if you're not using it defensively, you know you're not going to have to use it again in the near future. You can use it sort of offensively in some ways as well. And there we go. Those are the few that I've done so far this week. As I say, next week I'll show you a few other bits and pieces with next week's affixers, with again a little bit of commentary on them. Let me know what you feel, if this is going to be better than just trying to do an all-in-one guide, which doesn't really cover all the intricacies of the combinations of affixers anyway. And you know, it might well be that this is the best way to do it, just on a weekly basis like that. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it as always. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Until next time, I'll see you later.